Captain Jake Morrison stood in his ready room aboard the USS Meridian, staring at the message that had just arrived from Earth Defense Command. The blue glow of the holographic display cast strange shadows across his weathered face. After 20 years of deep space exploration, he thought he had seen everything the galaxy could offer. He was wrong. The message was from Admiral Lisa Carter herself, which meant this was important, very important. Jake had served under Carter during the border wars with the Centauri pirates, and she never contacted him directly unless something big was happening. He touched the display to replay the message. Admiral Carter's image appeared, her gray hair pulled back in the standard military style. Her expression was serious, more serious than Jake had seen in years. Captain Morrison, you are to report to Starbase 7 immediately. We have a situation that requires your particular skills. This is a Priority 1 assignment. Carter out. Jake frowned. Priority 1 meant to drop everything and move. He had been exploring the Outer Rim systems for 6 months, mapping new trade routes and looking for habitable worlds. His crew was tired and looking forward to shore leave. But orders were orders. Computer, set course for Starbase 7, maximum warp, he said. Of course, laid in, Captain, replied the ship's computer. Jake pressed his cum badge. All hands, this is the captain. We are changing course for Starbase 7. I know everyone was looking forward to leave, but we have new orders. Morrison, out. The D. USS Meridian was one of the newer exploration vessels in the Earth fleet. She was fast, well-armed, and had the best scientific equipment available. Jake's crew was handpicked from the best officers in the service. Dr. Amy Sullivan, his science officer, had 3 degrees in xenobiology and had discovered 4 new species in the past year. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez, his tactical officer, had graduated top of his class from the academy and had served with distinction in 3 different conflicts. The journey to Starbase 7 took 2 days. Jake spent most of that time wondering what could be so important that Admiral Carter would pull him off his current mission. When they finally arrived at the massive space station, Jake was surprised to see several diplomatic vessels docked at the main ports, ships he didn't recognize, with strange designs that could only belong to alien species. Jake beamed directly to Admiral Carter's office. The large room overlooked the main docking bay, and through the windows, he could see crews of different alien species working on their ships. It was an impressive sight, but also a little unsettling. Jake, good to see you, Admiral Carter said, standing up from behind her desk. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. Admiral, what's the situation? Jake asked, getting straight to business. We're about to make history. Jake, the Galactic Council has invited humanity to join their federation. This could be the beginning of a new age for our species, Carter said. Jake felt his eyebrows rise. The Galactic Council was a loose alliance of alien species that controlled most of the known galaxy. Humanity had been trying to make contact with them for decades. That's incredible news, Admiral. But why do you need me? 'Cause there's a problem. A big one. Our ambassador, Helen Brooks, has been negotiating with the Council for 3 weeks now. Yesterday, she sent me this report, Carter said, handing Jake a data pad. Jake, read through the report quickly. Ambassador Brooks was a skilled diplomat who had handled first contact situations with 6 different alien species. Her report was detailed and professional, but Jake could sense her confusion and concern between the lines. She says, the aliens are hiding something, Jake said. More than that, every species she's met with has shown her their star charts, their territorial maps, their trade routes, standard diplomatic procedure when discussing membership in the Council. But every single map has the same strange feature, Carter said, which is human space doesn't exist on any of their charts. There's just a blank area where our entire territory should be. No stars, no systems, no notation at all, like that. entire section of space is just empty, Carter explained. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. That doesn't make sense. Our space is clearly marked on all our charts. We have colonies in 12 systems, trade routes, mining operations. How can it just be blank on their maps? That's what Helen asked, and that's when things got really strange. Every alien she's talked to about it has had the same reaction. They get nervous, change the subject, and refuse to discuss it further. The Velkari trademaster actually started shaking when she showed him our stellar coordinates. The Nexari ambassador, one of those crystal beings, developed visible cracks in his shell when she mentioned the Sol system, Carter said. Maybe it's just a cartographic error. Different species probably use different star mapping systems, Jake suggested. That's what we thought at first. But Helen checked with 7 different species, including the Craven military. Kino, how aggressive the Craven are, how they pride themselves on their detailed intelligence about every region of space. Even they have that same blank area on their charts. Hey, and when Helen pressed the Craven attach about it, he actually became submissive. A Craven warrior, Jake, submissive, Carter said. Jake had met Craven before. They were 7-foot-tall predators, with natural armor and a warrior culture that valued strength above all else. The idea of a Craven becoming submissive was almost impossible to believe. There's more, Carter continued. Helen tried to give them updated charts showing human space, standard procedure for new members, but they refused to take them. Actually refuse. The council representative, a being called Zektar, told her that some regions of space were better left unmapped and that human territorial claims would be discussed later. So, what do you think is going on? Jake asked. I don't know, but I want you to find out. Your mission is to investigate why human space appears as a void on every alien map. Find out if this is some kind of conspiracy, a misunderstanding, or something else entirely, Carter said. Jake nodded. Right. What resources do I have? It's full authorization to investigate anywhere in human space or neutral territory. Dr. Sullivan's scientific expertise will be crucial for this mission, and Lieutenant Rodriguez's tactical background might be necessary if this turns out to be some kind of threat, Carter said. Do you think we're in danger? Jake asked. I don't know, but the way these aliens react when human space is mentioned suggests they know something we don't. Something that scares them. And if something scares species advanced enough to form a galactic council, then we need to find out what it is. Carter replied. Jake took the datapad containing all of Ambassador Brooks' reports. I'll need to brief my crew and resupply the ship already taken care of. Your crew is being briefed now, and the Meridian is being resupplied as we speak. Jake, this mission is classified at the highest levels. The crew knows they're investigating a cartographic anomaly, but they don't know about the aliens' reactions. That information stays between us until you determine what's really going on, Carter said. Understood, Admiral? One more thing, Jake. Be careful out there. I've been in contact with intelligence services from 3 different allied species. None of them have ever heard of the region of space where humanity is located being inhabited. As far as the galactic community is concerned, that entire area has been empty for over 1,000 years, Carter said. Jake felt that chill again, stronger this time. 1,000 years. Maybe longer. Find out why, Captain. Find out what happened. In our space, that made an entire galaxy decide to forget it existed, Carter said. Jake saluted and left the office, his mind racing with questions. As he walked toward the docking bay where the Meridian waited, he wondered what secrets lay hidden in the space that humanity called home. The USS Meridian dropped out of warp near the ancient archival station of Morden. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at the massive structure floating in the void between star systems. The station was older than human civilization, built by a species that had vanished long before humans ever reached the stars, looked like a giant crystal formation with thousands of faceted surfaces that caught and reflected the light from distant stars. "Impressive," said Dr. Amy Sullivan, stepping up beside Jake. "The station is over 3,000 years old, but its power readings are still strong. Whatever technology they used to build this thing is far beyond anything we have, Lieutenant." Ben Rodriguez checked his tactical display. "No weapon signatures, Captain, but the station has some kind of energy field around it that I can't identify. It's not a shield, exactly, but it's definitely there." Jake nodded. The chronicler agreed. "To see us, but he wasn't happy about it. Apparently, most species consider this place sacred. We need to be respectful." The station was neutral territory, protected by treaties signed by every major galactic power. It housed the oldest star charts and historical records in the galaxy. If anyone knew why human space was blank on alien maps, it would be the beings who maintained this archive. A message came through on the communications channel. The voice was strange, like wind blowing through metal pipes. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at Bay 7. The chronicler will see you, but he wishes to make clear that he finds your request most unusual." "Understood," Jake replied. "We appreciate the chronicler's time." The docking bay was enormous, designed to handle ships from dozens of different species. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake and his team saw other visitors. There were tall, thin beings with blue skin and extra arms, creatures that looked like walking trees made of crystal. Even some species that appeared to be made of pure energy contained within mechanical suits. None of them looked at the humans directly. When Jake tried to nod politely to a group of aliens, they quickly moved away, whispering to each other in languages his universal translator couldn't identify. "They're afraid of us," Dr. Sullivan observed quietly. "But why?" Lieutenant Rodriguez asked. "We're one of the newest species in the galaxy. We don't have advanced technology or a large military. What could they possibly be afraid of?" The chronicler's chamber was at the heart of the station. The room was vast, with walls covered in data crystals that stored information from across the galaxy. The chronicler himself was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. He appeared to be made of living metal, with dozens of thin arms that moved constantly, accessing different data crystals. His face was a smooth surface with 3 glowing eyes arranged in a triangle. "Humans," the chronicler said, his voice echoing strangely in the chamber. "I have heard of your species." "You are new to the galactic community. Why do you come to the archives?" Jake stepped forward. "We're investigating a cartographic anomaly. Human space appears blank on every alien star chart we've seen. We'd like to know why." The chronicler's 3 eyes dimmed slightly. Several of his arms stopped moving for a moment, then began working faster than before. "Kana's region of space is not discussed in civilized company." "But why?" Dr. Sullivan asked. "What happened there?" "Some things are best left forgotten," the chronicler replied. "The archives contain much knowledge, but not all knowledge should be shared." Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward. "With respect, chronicler, we need to understand. Our species lives in that space. There is some kind of danger. We have a right to know." The chronicler's eyes focused on Rodriguez, studying him intently. "You live there? In the dead zone?" "Impossible." Dr. Sullivan pulled out a small device from her equipment pack. It was a quantum scanner, one of humanity's more advanced pieces of technology. This scanner uses quantum entanglement to map subspace distortions. We developed it to navigate through asteroid fields and stellar phenomena that interfere with normal sensors. She activated the device, and it began displaying a 3-dimensional map of local space. The level of detail was incredible, showing not just star positions, but gravitational fields, quantum fluctuations, and even probability clouds for future stellar movements. The chronicler stared at the display. All of his arms stopped moving. This technology should not exist. No species has achieved quantum mapping at this level of precision. Humans developed it about 50 years ago, Dr. Sullivan said simply. The chronicler was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, several of his arms began moving toward a section of the wall that Jake hadn't noticed before. It was covered with crystals that were darker than the others, almost black. If you truly live in that region, then perhaps you have a right to know its history. But I warn you, this knowledge has been restricted for good reason. Many who learn of it wish they had remained ignorant, the chronicler said. The dark crystals began to glow, and suddenly the air in the chamber filled with holographic displays. Star charts, battle reports, communication logs, and historical records began appearing all around them. These records date back 847 years, the chronicler explained. The region you call human space was not always empty. It was once home to 3 great civilizations. The holographic displays showed bustling star systems, massive space stations, and fleets of ships that moved between dozens of worlds. Jay could see the territories clearly marked. The hegemony of Sakhalin controlled 15 star systems in what was now the core of human space. The merchant princes of Veltar had trading posts throughout the region. The warrior clans of Kravis Prime maintained military bases on the outer edges. What happened to them? Jake asked. More displays appeared, showing communication logs and distress signals. Lieutenant Rodriguez began reading through the tactical reports, his face growing pale as he absorbed the information. A purge fleet, Rodriguez said quietly. Something attacked from outside the galaxy. The reports described systematic destruction of every inhabited world in the region. Dr. Sullivan was examining the scientific data. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. These weapons didn't just destroy the targets, they seemed to unmake them at the quantum level. The chronicler's voice became even more somber. The attackers were called the Devourers. They came from beyond the galactic rim, consuming entire civilizations. They did not simply kill populations. They absorbed their knowledge, their technology, their very essence, leaving behind empty husks of worlds. More battle reports appeared. Jake read descriptions of ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Weapons that disintegrated matter at the atomic level. And something that the reports called life-drain technology that could strip the energy from entire planets. The 3 civilizations fought bravely, the chronicler continued. The Sakhalin hegemony had some of the most advanced defensive technology in the galaxy. The Veltar merchants hired the best mercenary fleets money could buy. The Kravis warriors were among the fiercest fighters known to exist. None of it mattered. Lieutenant Rodriguez found a final transmission from Sakhalin Command. His voice was shaky as he read it aloud. All defense grids have failed. The enemy's weapons consume our shields like they were never there. They move like shadows that eat light itself. Our quantum torpedoes pass through their ships without effect. This is our final transmission. May the galaxy remember what we fought to defend. Dr. Sullivan discovered casualty reports. 38 billion sentient beings lived in that region. Within 6 months, every single one was gone. Just dead, but completely absorbed. The reports say the Devourers left nothing behind except barren rock. Jake felt sick. What happened to the Devourers? Why did they stop? The chronicler's eyes dimmed again. That is the mystery that has haunted the galaxy for over 8 centuries. The Devourers were unstoppable. Every major galactic power sent fleets to contain them, but their combined military might could not even slow the advance. The holographic displays showed the deployment of massive battle fleets from dozens of different species, ships by the thousands, weapons that could crack planets, shields that could withstand supernovas. All of it aimed at the region that was now human space. Then, without warning, the Devourers vanished, the chronicler said. Their entire force simply disappeared overnight. No distress signals, no final battles, no retreating ships. They were there one day, gone the next. Where did they go? Dr. Sullivan asked. No one knows. Search fleets entered the region and found nothing. Empty worlds, dead space, and quantum. Scars that still mark where their weapons had fired. But of the devourers themselves, no trace remained. Lieutenant Rodriguez was studying the tactical data. Galactic powers kept searching for months. Then they suddenly stopped and declared the entire region off limits. Yes, the chronicler confirmed. A joint declaration was signed by every major government. A key, the region was designated as forbidden space. All official star charts were ordered to remove any reference to it. Travel through the area was banned. Communication with anything in that region was prohibited. Jake felt a chill. They were afraid the devourers would come back. More than that, the chronicler said. They were afraid that something in that region had been powerful enough to make the devourers disappear. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the encrypted coordinates that Dr. Amy Sullivan had found hidden in the archive data. The numbers led to an asteroid field in the neutral zone, far from any inhabited system. According to the records, this location had been marked as significant in the final days before the devourers vanished. The coordinates were buried deep in the combat reports. Dr. Sullivan explained as they sat in the USS Meridian's conference room. Someone wanted them found, but only by people who were looking very carefully. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez had been studying the tactical data from the archives for 3 days. Captain, I've analyzed every battle report we downloaded. The devourers weren't just randomly destroying civilizations. They had a pattern, a strategy. They were moving toward something specific in the center of what is now human space. Any idea what? Jake asked. No, but whatever it was important. Enough that 3 different species built their most heavily defended installations around it. The final battles all took place in a small cluster of systems near the galactic core. Rodriguez replied. Jake made his decision, set course for those coordinates. If there's a survivor from that time period, they might have answers we need. The journey to the asteroid field took 2 days. When they arrived, the USS Meridian's sensors immediately detected something unusual. Hidden among the floating rocks was a structure that didn't appear on any star chart. It's a space station, Dr. Sullivan reported. Small, maybe a few hundred meters across. The design doesn't match any known architecture in our databases. It's old, Rodriguez added. Really old, 10, but it's still powered and transmitting a low-level signal. Jake studied the readings. Can you identify the signal? It's a distress beacon, but the format is ancient. Our computers can barely decode it. The message just says sanctuary over and over again, Dr. Sullivan said. They approached the station carefully. It was built into the largest asteroid in the field, with docking bays carved directly into the rock. As the Meridian moved closer, a communication channel opened. Unknown vessel, you approach sacred ground. State your purpose or be destroyed. The voice was rough, like someone who hadn't spoken to another living being in years. Jake activated the ship's communications. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Meridian. We're investigating the history of this region. We come in peace. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again, but this time with surprise. Earth. You are from the world called Earth, the 3rd planet of the Sol system. Yes, that's correct. Another pause. Impossible. That region of space is forbidden. No one lives there. No one can live there. We need to talk, Jake said, simply. The docking bay doors slowly opened, and the Meridian was guided inside. The artificial gravity was lighter than Earth normal, and the air had a strange metallic taste. As Jake, Dr. Sullivan, and Lieutenant Rodriguez walked through the station's corridors, they saw signs of long habitation. This wasn't a temporary shelter. Someone had been living here for a very long time. They found him in what appeared to be the station's command center. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species wasn't in any of Earth's databases, but his clothes were clearly military. Old battle armor that had been repaired many times over the centuries. "I am Velkin, the exile," he said, his voice carrying the weight of immense age and sorrow. "I'm the last survivor of the Veltar merchant princes. I have been waiting in this place for 847 years. Jake felt a chill. Sping had been alive when the Devourers attacked. "You witnessed the purge." Velkin's eyes, which were larger than human eyes and completely black, seemed to look through Jake into some distant memory. "I witnessed the end of everything I had ever known. The Devourers came from beyond the rim like a plague of living darkness. They consumed entire worlds in days." Dr. Sullivan stepped forward. "Okay," the archive said, "they absorbed civilizations, not just destroyed them." "What does that mean?" Falcon gestured to a wall covered with images. They showed worlds that Jake recognized from the archive records, but these pictures were different. They showed the planets after the Devourers had finished with them. They did not simply kill populations, Falcon explained. They drained the life force from every living thing, plants, animals, even microorganisms. But more than that, they absorbed knowledge directly from the minds of their victims. Technology, culture, memories, everything that made a species unique was consumed and added to their collective consciousness. Lieutenant Rodriguez examined the images more closely. These worlds looked completely dead. No atmosphere, no water, just bare rock. The Devourers fed on quantum energy, the basic force that holds matter together. When they finished feeding, they left behind planets that were less than lifeless. They were quantum voids, places where the fundamental forces of physics had been weakened, Falcon said. Jake tried to understand the implications. How is that even possible? The Devourers were not like any species in this galaxy. They evolved in the space between galaxies in the quantum foam that exists in the deepest void. They could manipulate the basic forces of reality itself, Falcon explained. Dr. Sullivan was taking readings with her scanner. The quantum structure of space around this asteroid field is different from normal space. It's like reality is thinner here. Falcon nodded. The final battle was fought in this system. The combined fleets of 23 different species made their last stand here. 12,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. "What happened?" Jake asked. Falcon walked to another wall display. This one showed the battle in terrible detail. Massive ships firing weapons that could destroy stars. Shields that could protect entire planets. All of it being overwhelmed by creatures that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. Quat, the Devourers didn't fight like any enemy we had ever faced. Okay? Their ships could phase in and out of our dimension at will. Our weapons passed through them like they were ghosts. But their weapons could affect us perfectly. They had technology that could unravel matter at the quantum level, Falcon said. Lieutenant Rodriguez studied the tactical displays. "How did you survive?" "I didn't fight in the final battle. I was a merchant, not a warrior. My ship was carrying refugees from the inner systems when the end came. We hid in this asteroid field and watched as the greatest military force in galactic history was destroyed in less than 6 hours," Falcon replied. The images showed ships being consumed by what looked like living darkness. Entire battle groups simply vanishing as the Devourers fed on the quantum energy that powered their reactors and held their hulls together. After the battle, the Devourers began to spread throughout the region. Okay? They consumed every inhabited world, every space station, every trace of the 3 civilizations that had lived here. Within months, billions of years of evolution and thousands of years of civilization were gone, Falcon continued. Dr. Sullivan was recording everything, but then they disappeared. The archives said they just vanished overnight. Falcon's expression changed. For the first time since they had met him, he looked genuinely frightened. They didn't disappear. Something stopped them. Something that made creatures capable of consuming entire galaxies flee in terror. What? Jake demanded. Falcon walked to the largest display in the room. It showed a star map of the region, but this map was different from the ones in the archives. At the center of what had been the three civilizations' territory was a cluster of systems, marked with symbols that Jake didn't recognize. The heart systems, Falcon said quietly. The Seclin, Baltar and Kravis had been fighting each other for control of those systems for generations. None of us knew why they were so important. The planets there were average worlds. Nothing special about their resources or strategic position. But something was special about them, Rodriguez guessed. The Devourers thought so. Instead of consuming those systems immediately, they surrounded them with their entire fleet. For weeks, they built up their forces around the heart systems like they were preparing for a major battle. Hey, my sensors detected massive energy buildups, preparation for what looked like the largest feeding operation ever, Falcon explained. Dr. Sullivan checked her readings. Those systems are in the center of what is now human space. Earth's colonies in that region include New Boston, Liberty Station, and the Terra Nova Research Facility. Falcon stared at her. You have colonies in the heart systems. You have people living there. Yes, thousands of humans. They've been there for decades, Jake replied. Falcon sat down heavily in a chair that looked like it had been built for his species. Then they're all dead, or worse. Nothing can survive in the heart systems. Nothing should be able to exist there. Why? Jake asked. What happened when the Devourers attacked those systems? Falcon's four hands were shaking. I don't know. My sensors detected the beginning of the attack. Massive energy discharges, quantum distortions that registered off every scale we had. The space around the heart systems began to twist in ways that shouldn't be possible. The display showed sensor readings from that final day. The energy levels were incredible, far beyond anything that conventional weapons could produce. Then everything went silent. No more transmissions from the Devourer fleet. No energy signatures, nothing. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Meridian, staring at the coordinates for the heart systems against direct orders from Admiral Lisa Carter. He had made the decision that would either solve the mystery or doom them all. We're going to investigate the place where the Devourers had vanished. Captain, we're receiving another message from Earth Defense Command. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez reported. Admiral Carter is ordering us to return immediately. Ignore it, Jake said quietly. We've come too far to turn back now. Dr. Amy Sullivan looked up from her science station. Jake, are you sure about this? If Falcon is right, we could be flying into something that can unmake reality itself. Amy, we have human colonies in those systems. Thousands of people who have been living there for decades. If there's some kind of danger, they need to know about it, okay? And if they're somehow safe, then we need to understand how, Jake replied. Meridian engaged its stealth systems as they approached the outer edge of what had once been Cyclone space. Jake didn't want to advertise their presence until they knew what they were dealing with. The ship moved quietly through space, using passive sensors to scan for any signs of the mysterious force that had destroyed the Devourer's sensor sweep. Complete, Dr. Sullivan reported. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the direction of the heart systems. The quantum structure of space is definitely different here. It's like the basic laws of physics are more flexible than they should be. Lieutenant Rodriguez was monitoring the tactical displays. No signs of hostile activity. Okay, but my instruments are picking up some unusual readings from the third planet in the Kepler-42 system. That's where the New Haven colony is supposed to be located. Jake felt his heart rate increase. New Haven was one of humanity's newest colonies, established only 50 years ago. According to the records, it was a thriving agricultural settlement with a population of 15,000. Take us in, but keep the stealth systems active. I want to know what we're dealing with before we announce ourselves, Jake ordered as they approached the Kepler 442 system. The strange readings became stronger. Dr. Sullivan's instruments were detecting technology that shouldn't exist, energy patterns that violated known physics, and quantum signatures that her computer couldn't classify. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Sullivan said, her voice filled with amazement and concern. On the main screen, the third planet appeared. But it wasn't the barren world that should have existed according to the old star charts. Instead, they saw a garden world with blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds. Cities dotted the surface, connected by transportation networks that seemed to shimmer with their own light. "That's impossible," Rodriguez whispered. "According to Falcon, this entire region should be a quantum wasteland. Nothing should be able to survive here, let alone thrive." Dr. Sullivan was running every scan she could think of. The planet's ecosystem is incredibly advanced. The atmospheric composition is perfect for human life. The agricultural output is off the charts. And the technology signatures are beyond anything in our databases. "Are you detecting any human life signs?" Jake asked. "Yes, but that's where it gets strange. The humans on that planet are registering quantum signatures that I've never seen before. It's like their cellular structure has been enhanced at the subatomic level," Dr. Sullivan replied. A communication signal suddenly filled the bridge. "It's unknown vessel. This is New Haven Control. Please identify yourself and state your business in our system." Jake activated the communications. "New Haven Control. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Meridian. We're investigating reports of unusual activity in this region." There was a pause. "Captain Morrison, you were cleared to land at Landing Pad 7. Colony Administrator Paul Jenkins would like to meet with you personally." As the Meridian descended through the planet's atmosphere, Jake could see the impossible truth of what humanity had achieved. The cities were marvels of architecture that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Its farms stretched across entire continents, producing crops that grew in perfect geometric patterns. Its transportation systems moved without any visible power source, and the energy readings from the settlements suggested technology far beyond anything Earth possessed. They landed at a facility that looked more like a work of art than a spaceport. The buildings curved and flowed like living things, made from materials that seemed to shift between metal and crystal depending on the angle of view. Administrator Paul Jenkins met them at the landing pad. He appeared to be a normal human in his 50s, with graying hair and a friendly smile. But Jake noticed something different about his eyes. They seemed to hold depths that shouldn't be possible, like looking into space itself. "Captain Morrison, welcome to New Haven," Jenkins said, extending his hand. "I understand you have questions about our colony." Administrator Jenkins, according to our records, this planet should be uninhabitable. The entire region was devastated by an alien attack over 800 years ago, Jake said. Jenkins smiled. "Walk with me, Captain. There's a lot you need to understand." They toured the colony, and with each step, Jake became more amazed and more concerned. The technology was incredible, but it was also alien in ways that made him uncomfortable. Buildings that repaired themselves. Plants that grew in impossible configurations. Transportation systems that seemed to read their passengers' minds and take them where they wanted to go before they even asked. "How is any of this possible?" Dr. Sullivan asked as they watched a group of children playing with toys that defied gravity. "We've learned to work with the quantum structure of reality rather than against it," said Dr. Claire Thompson, Jenkins' deputy administrator. She was a woman in her 40s with an advanced degree in theoretical physics, but she spoke about manipulating quantum forces like it was basic engineering. Lieutenant Rodriguez was studying the defensive installations around the colony. Your security systems are reading as both present and absent on my sensors. How does that work? Quantum superposition, Dr. Thompson explained. Our defenses exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're needed. It's much more efficient than maintaining fixed installations. Jake was beginning to understand that something fundamental had changed about these humans. Administrator Jenkins, how long have you personally been on this planet? I arrived with the first colonization wave 50 years ago, Jenkins replied. But the technology you're using is centuries beyond anything that existed 50 years ago. Where did it come from? Jake pressed. Jenkins and Dr. Thompson exchanged a look. Captain, what do you know about the previous inhabitants of this region? We know that 3 alien civilizations lived here before being destroyed by something called the Devourers. Dr. Sullivan answered. The Devourers weren't destroyed, Dr. Thompson said quietly. They were changed. Jake felt ice in his veins. What do you mean? Jenkins led them to a building at the center of the colony. Inside, the walls were covered with displays showing the history of New Haven. But these weren't normal historical records. They showed the arrival of the first human colonists and their discovery of something incredible. When our terraforming teams first surveyed this planet, they found ruins, Jenkins explained. Not just buildings, but technology, devices that the previous inhabitants had been working on when the Devourers arrived. Dr. Thompson activated one of the displays. The 3 civilizations that lived here had been studying the Devourers for decades before the final attack. They knew the Devourers were coming, and they had been preparing. The display showed research facilities hidden deep underground, laboratories where alien scientists had been experimenting with captured Devourer technology. What kind of experiments? Rodriguez asked. They were trying to understand how the Devourers could manipulate quantum forces, Dr. Thompson replied. The 3 species had been working together in secret, sharing their research, trying to find a way to fight an enemy that could unmake reality itself. Jake was starting to piece together the horrifying truth. They succeeded, didn't they? They found a way to fight the Devourers. More than that, Jenkins said. They found a way to become something that the Devourers couldn't consume. The display changed, showing the final days before the Devourer attack. Underground laboratories working frantically to complete their research. Scientists from 3 different species cooperating in ways that their governments had never allowed. When the Devourers arrived, the research was almost complete. The scientists had developed a process that could alter the quantum signature of living beings, making them immune to the Devourers' feeding techniques. Dr. Thompson explained. Dr. Sullivan was studying the technical data. This is incredible. They found a way to exist in quantum superposition while maintaining consciousness and individuality. But there wasn't time to save everyone, Jenkins continued. The Devourers moved too fast. The scientists could only save themselves and hope that someday someone would find their work and continue it. The welcome home message, Jake realized. Falcon detected a signal that said welcome home just before the Devourers vanished. Jenkins nodded. The transformed scientists were welcoming the Devourers to join them. You see, Captain, the process they developed didn't just make them immune to the Devourers' feeding. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center of New Haven Colony, watching the quantum detection systems that monitored the edges of human space. 3 days had passed since Administrator Paul Jenkins had revealed the truth about the transformation technology. 3 days of seeing impossible things and learning about humanity's evolution beyond its original form. Now, those monitoring systems were showing something that made Jenkins and Dr. Claire Thompson extremely concerned. A probe was approaching from the Galactic Rim, moving faster than any known technology should allow. It's definitely Devourer in origin, Dr. Thompson said. studying the energy readings. But it's not one of the transformed ones. This probe comes from the survivors who fled beyond the galaxy 800 years ago. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez checked his tactical display. How many devourers escaped the transformation? We never knew for certain, Jenkins replied. We're too far away when the change occurred. Others may have been resistant to the process. What we do know is that they've been out there, beyond the rim, for 8 centuries. Dr. Amy Sullivan was analyzing the probe's approach vector. It's scanning everything as it moves. Looking for something specific, Jake felt a chill. Testing to see if their ancient feeding ground is still protected. The probe was small compared to the massive devourer ships that Vulcan had described, but it still radiated power that made Jake's instruments struggle to get accurate readings. As it moved closer to the heart systems, the quantum structure of space around it began to warp in ways that hurt to look at. All colonists are moving to the shelters, Jenkins announced. We've planned for this day, but we hoped it would never come. Jake watched as the people of New Haven calmly walked toward buildings that seemed to fold space around themselves, creating protected zones that existed partially outside normal reality. As children who had been playing with gravity-defying toys now helped their parents prepare defenses that could reshape the laws of physics. What exactly are you planning to do? Jake asked. Dr. Thompson activated displays that showed the probe's position in the defensive systems that New Haven had built. Over the past 50 years, we're going to show this probe that the heart systems are still defended, but not in the way it expects. The probe entered the outer edge of the Kepler-42 system, and immediately, Jake's sensors detected massive energy buildups from dozens of locations throughout human space. Not just New Haven, but colonies that Jake had never heard of. Research stations that didn't exist on any official Earth charts, and installations that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. How many colonies do you have out here? Rodriguez asked. 47 fully operational settlements, Jenkins replied, each one staffed by humans who have undergone the transformation process, each one capable of manipulating quantum forces at a level that makes our original technology look like stone tools. The probe was scanning the 3rd planet now, its sensors trying to understand what had happened to the region that was once a devourer feeding ground. Jake could see the confusion in its movement patterns as it detected life signs that registered as both human and something else entirely. It doesn't understand what it's seeing, Dr. Sullivan observed. The probe's scanning protocols were designed to detect normal matter and energy. It can't properly analyze quantum transformed life forms. That's when the probe made its first mistake. It launched a test weapon toward New Haven, a beam of energy designed to sample the planet's defenses. The weapon was the same type that the original devourers had used to unmake matter at the quantum level. The beam struck the planet's protective field and simply stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, but stopped completely, as if it had hit something that didn't exist in the same reality as the weapon itself. Quantum phase shifting, Dr. Thompson explained. We exist in a state of controlled superposition. Attacks that target our normal matter phase simply pass through the spaces where we're not currently existing. The probe fired again, this time with multiple weapons at different quantum frequencies. Each beam was neutralized in a different way. Some were reflected back through folded space. Others were converted into harmless light. One beam was transformed into a shower of flowers that fell gently onto the colony's main square. Jake stared in amazement. You're not just defending against their weapons, you're turning them into something beautiful. That's the difference between the old approach and the new one, Jenkins said. The galaxy has always responded to threats with greater threats. We respond with transformation. The probe was clearly confused now. Scanning systems were detecting defenses that didn't match any known technology. It launched a communication signal, broadcasting on frequencies that Jake's equipment could barely detect. Dr. Thompson translated the signal. It's calling for instructions from the main Devourer fleet. It's reporting that the heart systems are occupied by an unknown species with technology that violates the basic laws of physics. How long before the main fleet responds? Jake asked. At faster than light speeds, probably 6 hours, Jenkins replied. We're not going to wait for them to arrive. Jake watched as energy signatures began building throughout human space. Not just defensive systems, but something much more powerful. Quantum transmitters that could send signals across galactic distances instantaneously. Communication arrays that existed in dimensions where the speed of light was irrelevant. What are you doing? Rodriguez asked. We're sending a message, Dr. Thompson said. Not just to the Devourer fleet, but to every transformed Devourer in human space. It's time for a reunion. Space around the probe began to change. Quantum distortions appeared, growing larger and more complex. Jake's sensors detected massive objects moving through dimensions that his instruments couldn't properly measure. Then the first of the transformed Devourers revealed itself. It was beautiful. It's a creature that materialized near the probe looked nothing like the terrifying beings described in the ancient battle reports. Instead of a ship designed for consumption and destruction, Jake saw something that resembled a living work of art. Flowing lines of energy contained within structures that seemed to be made of crystallized space itself. That used to be a Devourer battle cruiser, Jenkins explained. After transformation, it chose to become something that creates rather than destroys. It spends its time growing new star systems and nurturing young civilizations. More transformed Devourers appeared. Some looked like ships, others like space stations, and a few resembled nothing that Jake could classify. They surrounded the probe, but their approach was gentle, welcoming rather than threatening. Dr. Sullivan was recording everything. The probe's behavior is changing. Its aggressive posture is shifting to something more like curiosity. The transformed Devourers began communicating with the probe, sharing information about what they had become and what they had learned. Jake couldn't understand the technical details, but he could see the probe's systems slowly adapting to process information that challenged everything it had been programmed to believe. Are they trying to transform the probe? Jake asked. They're offering it a choice, Dr. Thompson replied. It's the same choice that every Devourer in this region was given 800 years ago. The process took hours. Jake watched as the probe's quantum signature slowly began to change. Its weapon systems powered down. Scanning arrays shifted from military reconnaissance to scientific exploration. The angular, aggressive design of its hull began to flow into smoother, more organic shapes. It's accepting the transformation, Jenkins said with satisfaction. One more Devourer choosing evolution over endless hunger. But the real surprise came when the probe's communication array activated and began broadcasting toward the Galactic Rim. Not a call for military support, but an invitation. A message describing what it had learned and experienced, and offering the same choice to the Devourer fleet that was still approaching. Will they accept? Jake asked. Some will, Dr. Thompson said. Others will need more time to understand. But each one that chooses transformation makes it easier for the next. Over the following days, Jake watched as more Devourer ships arrived at the edge of human space. Some were hostile at first, but the transformed probe served as an ambassador, sharing its new perspective with its former fleetmates. One by one, they chose to abandon their old ways and join the growing community of transformed beings. Dr. Sullivan was fascinated by the scientific implications of creating a new form of civilization. It's not based on conquest or consumption, but on cooperation and mutual growth. It's what the 3 original species were working toward, Jenkins explained. A way for all forms of life to exist together without the need for competition or conflict. Jake realized that he was witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization that had learned to transcend the basic drives of survival and expansion that had defined every other species. What happens now? Rodriguez asked. Now we wait, Dr. Thompson said. We continue to grow, to learn, to offer transformation to anyone who's ready for it. Someday, when the galaxy is ready, we'll reveal ourselves to the other species and offer them the same choice. Jake guessed.